guys, it's Jess from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my April wrap-up. I am in a different kind of setup. I usually have my chair over here, but I hurt my back yesterday, and I totally feel Kayla from Books and Lala. She posted her wrap-up yesterday. My back pain I don't think is as bad as hers, but I was doing a workout video yesterday, and it went from doing a move to jumping in that move, and halfway through something happened, and I can't stand up for long periods of time. It's just very uncomfortable. It's not like intense pain or anything. It's just like standing up straight feels very uncomfortable because my back feels very, very tight. I've been putting a heating pad on it, and I'm just praying it gets better. So that's where I'm at. Monday I went to the emergency room for my finger. So we're living a really good life right now in quarantine, but I had to sit down for this video. So I kind of like this setup though. I'm just like lounging and talking, and I got my new sweatshirt that says stay home and read, which is like my life. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to the books I read in April. I read 31 books in April, and I read I think 9 audiobooks, and the rest were either physical or ebook, and I think about 3 of them were novellas though, so they were like, one was 60 pages and then a couple were like 150 pages. So I have a lot to get to. I knew this was gonna be long, so I knew I had to sit down. So I feel fine right now, but if I were trying to stand for this, I would have to take a lot of breaks. So we'll go ahead and get to the list, and this is easier because I get to hold my bullet journal in my lap and you can't see it. So let's go. I have a lot of vlogs that I did this month and a lot of readathons. I will link down below any of the readathons I did and the vlogs that I posted so you guys can see my thoughts as I was reading these. But the first one that I finished was an audiobook, and that is Mr. Bodyguard by Lauren Roe. I am obsessed with these audiobooks. I read it. Is that the first one? Oh my god, that's the first one in the series I read. I feel like I've been reading the series for so long, but this is book, I think 4 in the series, and it is about a bodyguard, which is why I wanted to read it. And his name's Xander, and he is being hired for his first job as a bodyguard for Aloha, who is kind of like Hannah Montana. She had her own TV show and then is now trying to get into, well, she is in the music scene, but she has a lot of fans from her TV show, and she's trying to be kind of more serious of a music person, a pop star, I don't know. And so Xander's kind of the person who falls head over heels in love with like any girl he dates, and so his family, which is the Morgan family, he's actually the best friend of a Morgan brother, and so he's like kind of like an honorary member of the Morgan family. They place bets on how long it'll take him to fall in love with Aloha, and so it's their romance, and it's super cute and adorable, and Xander is just like the sweetest kind of character. I love those like sweet, wholesome guys who just like really treat their girls right, and so I gave this 4 to 5 stars. My problem with the Lauren Roe audiobooks, first of all, she narrates them herself, which I think is really cool. The author does. But the epilogues, I feel like I don't care by the time I get to the epilogue, especially the last one I read, which I'll talk about later. I think it's because it was the last book in the series, but the epilogue was like an hour long. I really enjoyed the book, but it wasn't super 5 stars, like 4.5 star. I really recommend the series. Then I ended up picking up We Are the Wildcats by Siobhan Vivian. I have an arc of this from the publisher. It's already released though, and this one is about a group of girls on a field hockey team, and it's kind of like their initiation night. They all just figured out what teams they made, whether varsity, JV, I don't know if there's a freshman team, but whoever made varsity, and they all get to spend a sleepover together where they do things to kind of bond. And the coach in here is like a very shady guy, and he like texts the captain girl all the time, like, and says very inappropriate things about the other girls. Not like bad, but like things that are annoying him about the other girls. Like he's talking to her as a friend or an equal, and like that's a bit like no. And so this one, I was just very, very bored by it. I gave it 2 stars, and there were too many characters. I think we had 6 different perspectives, and we literally got a chapter for each of them, and then we would go back for a chapter for each of them, and I feel like it just took forever to get to the point, and I didn't care, and it didn't really seem realistic to me because his coach was doing really bad things and no one was questioning it. It had been like 3 years, I think, since he was coach, and I played softball growing up, and my dad was super involved on the team. And yes, there were girls whose parents weren't that involved with their athletics, but at least half the team had like super over-involved parents, and it was kind of weird to me to believe like no parents thought that he was shady and would stop it. So I gave it 2 and 5 stars. Very disappointed in this one. It's gonna be hard when my stack of books gets to the bottom because I'm gonna have to bend over to get to those. But the next book I read was the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. Another arc I have, it's already released. This is book 2 after the Friend Zone. They can be read as standalones. This one, our main character is going through something difficult. I don't want to say it because it does spoil book 1, but you like get it if you don't read book 1, if you don't want to read book 1. And then she ends up finding a dog and trying to figure out who the owner is and can't get a hold of him, so she kind of pretty much adopts the dog. And then 2 weeks later, the owner calls her and is like, I need my dog back, like, thanks for taking care of it, but he's mine. And it's because Jason, who's the guy, was on tour because he's a musician, so he's an Australian, he had no idea his dog was missing, and they start a texting relationship, which I thought was super sweet. She just went through something very traumatic, so she obviously doesn't want to open herself up to anybody right now, and it's better for her that their situation started that way, so she kind of got to know him through texting, and then he ended up coming back home from tour and they got to meet, and it's a relationship, and it's a rock star romance, so we do deal with him trying to go on tour and having a relationship. He is just like the sweetest character, just like Mr. Bodyguard. He was adorable and like just wanted to be around her and do things for her and take care of her and be there for her, and I loved his character. I gave this 4.5 stars. There was a trope in here at the end that like is annoying to me, and I knew that it was going in that direction. I didn't want it to, but other than that, it was really adorable, and I think if you didn't like book 1, you would really enjoy book 2 of this series. Next, I read Girl Gone Viral by Alicia Rai. I had this from NetGalley, and this one I was really excited for because I did really enjoy the right swipe. Our main character has a lot of social anxiety because of something that happened to her in her past, and so she doesn't like to go outside, she doesn't like attention, but she tries to go out like occasionally. So she goes to this coffee shop and this guy ends up hitting on her because he shares her table because it's super crowded there. She's like, okay, so they chat a little, he asks her out, she's like, no thanks. And someone was live tweeting the whole thing and made it sound like there was more to it than actually happened, and it went viral, and she's terrified that people are going to know who she is, that she's going to get attention that she really doesn't want. So her bodyguard ends up taking her to his ranch and they spend some time together, and it's her romance with her bodyguard. I found this extremely boring. Like, it took like 100 pages just to get to the ranch, and then the rest of the time was at the ranch, and I thought it was way too boring. Not a lot happened, and I feel like the pacing wasn't really good because she had things that happened to her in her past that made her scared, and then the bodyguard also had things in his past that had him have trouble with his family, and like I think he has PTSD, and I didn't like how the reveals were because I feel like we were left in the unknown for so long, and to understand their characters I would have liked to know in the beginning this is exactly what happened, and I'm still confused about what happened to her. So yeah, gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I really wanted to like it more, but I wasn't a fan. Next, I listened to the audiobook of Ball Peen Hammer by Lauren Rowe, which is the book that is right before Mr. Bodyguard. It is Xander's best friend, Keen, and he is a stripper. So they do reference Magic Mike, and he has to go on a road trip to, I don't remember where, with this girl because she is, I think she had just gotten into a bad car accident and she has to go visit her sister, or like, I think she's moving to be with her sister, and she is gonna drive there, and her sister's like, I don't want you driving, you have to be in this car accident. So she gets like her friend from her apartment's brother to like go with her, and Keen at first like has no idea what's going on because he doesn't answer his phone all the time, and so then they end up going on this road trip together, and it's super adorable. Keen is just like the funny guy, and he's hilarious, and the girl, I think it was Maddie, I don't know if that was her name, she isn't attracted to Keen, and she like talks about how if she's attracted to someone she gets like super tongue-tied and like nervous, and so her and Keen just become really good friends first, and it's really adorable, and they end up kind of promoting Keen's social media, so she starts filming videos. She's a documentary maker, and it was just really adorable and fun. If you like a fun romance, you have to read the series. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. Alright, so the next few books I read for my Reading Band Books vlog, and I'll link that down below. The first one I read was The Wild by Webster. This is not available on Amazon. I had to go to the author's website and buy the ebook from there. This is a romance between a girl and her father, and I will say not everything is as it seems. I didn't know that was a spoiler going in because I knew before, but I guess it is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say too much about that, but she ends up having to move with her dad and her mom to like the wilderness of Alaska, and she had been having feelings for her dad since right before they left, and her mother is kind of shut herself off from everybody because of something that happened in their past, and then her and the dad are left to like survive together and end up falling in love. But they were falling in love beforehand, and it was bizarre. I gave it 1 star. I mean, if you liked it, that's you, but it was weird. So yeah, 1 star. I don't need to read that. Then I picked up Captive Prince by C.S. Pacat. This one isn't necessarily banned on Amazon, but it is one that is very polarizing. Some people have very strong opinions about it, and that's because our main character is taken by his brother to the enemy like kingdom and given to them like as a present as a sex slave, and slaves in this kingdom are treated very poorly. He made it sound like the slaves in his own kingdom were like voluntary and they were treated really well, but he is not, and so he has to experience and is put in some really bad situations. And the person he's supposed to fall in love with is the prince of this new kingdom, and he's actually the prince of this other kingdom, but nobody knows it. And so it's their romance, but he ends up kind of like forming a friendship with this guy. There's no romance in book 1, and so I feel like it kind of moved pretty slow. I gave it 3 stars because I was expecting this epic romance, and I guess people say it gets really good in books 2 and 3 where there isn't that slave captor romance anymore. I don't want to spoil anything, but like the problem people had is like there was a definite abuse of power in here if there was a romance, but there was no romance, so I didn't see that being problematic, but it was just more boring than anything, so I gave this 3 stars. Then I did listen to the audiobook of Easy Virtue by Mia Asher. This one's about a girl who she likes to like be with men who are unavailable. So she's in the beginning in a relationship with like the dad of someone she goes to school with who is definitely married, and she pretty much lives her life by being a sugar baby, I guess you would call it. She gets with men who have money and she lets them take care of her, and then she kind of falls for a guy that's not like that she's not using for that, and she doesn't know like if she should, because she's like, I need to make a living, and by living is by being with guys who can support me. And it was fine. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I think there's a cliffhanger though, because I think there's a second book, and I just like didn't end up really caring about the relationship because like you knew she's gonna fall in love with this guy and then like run away because she wants to like still be a sugar baby kind of thing. So it was fine. 3 stars. Nothing memorable. Then I picked up Balance by Lucia Franco. I don't remember how to pronounce her name, but this one, this was for that banned books video, and it is between a girl who is 15 in the beginning and her gymnastics coach, and this is over 500 pages. I DNF'd it at 400 because the girl's annoying, first of all. So like even if there wasn't consent issues and like underage issues, she was obnoxious. She really wanted to be an Olympic gymnast, so she begs her dad to let her go to an elite gymnastics training program, and the minute she gets there she like doesn't listen to her coach and argues with him about everything he wants her to do and doesn't trust him, doesn't listen to him. And I'm like, if you wanted to be an Olympic athlete and you're that serious, listen to the coach who's been training Olympic athletes, who was an Olympic athlete. She was obnoxious, and she was all like trying to act so innocent and virtuous, but then she was all like, well, I know when a man wants me, and it just like felt like it didn't align well at all. And it was her romance with her coach who was in his 30s, and so I didn't like it. It was very, it was always like, I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I really do. And like, he definitely instigated a lot of the things. And there was just an intimate scene when I DNF'd it that turned from consensual to very non-consensual. And he was like, it's okay, trust me. And I'm just like, nope, nope, nope. So I put it down. I gave it 1 star. I know a lot of people absolutely love this series, and I don't have an issue with you if you like it, but it's just not something that I'm into. Then I listened to Filthy Vows by Alessandra Torre, which is about a married couple, and the wife actually like wants to spice things up, and it like starts out with you knowing that they're gonna invite someone into their bedroom, and then it flashes back to when they met and then the troubles they're having now in their relationship. And I actually liked the flashbacks better because it read like a new adult romance. Like he was the hotshot baseball player and she fell in love with him, and like he had been getting around with other people, so she knew like rumors about him, and then they met officially and like fell for each other. I loved that aspect of it, but then we got to like the present where things aren't going so well for him and they're dealing with some marriage issues, and she just wants to spice things up but doesn't know how to approach him about it. So it was fine. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. So I liked the beginning, and then I just like didn't care by the end. And yeah, there's nothing more to say. It was fine. It passed the time. It was short. It was an audiobook. Then I read an e-arc of Tell Me Pretty Lies by Charlie Rose. This one is a high school bully romance, and reading them, I love Charlie Rose, but like now I feel like every high school bully romance has the same exact tropes and they get repetitive. But this one, I can't even remember specifically what this one was about because I was reading it and I was listening to Fear Me by BB Reed, which I DNF'd at 20%, so I'm not counting it in this wrap up. But This one was about a girl, and what happened? Oh, okay, so I remember. So this girl was like living with this family with these 3 sons because her mother was engaged to the dad. Something happened, her mom and their dad broke off their engagement, and she doesn't live with them anymore, but they keep on calling her stepsister even though they never actually were officially step-siblings. And then the guy that she falls for is one of the step-siblings, and I feel like someone, I read this so long ago and now I don't even remember what it was about. Something happened one night when they like almost got together because they kind of had feelings for each other beforehand, and now it's like him bullying her because he thinks she's the reason why this thing happened. It kind of reminded me a lot of Cruel Prince by Ashley Jade, and so if you like that, you might like this. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Like, it was really entertaining and I really liked it, but it did feel like a lot like other bully romances, and I can't even remember specifically what this one was about because I keep on thinking of other bully romances. They had a past where they liked each other, and then he decided to hate her and bully her, and then they fell for each other. Next, I read The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I read this because I saw it everywhere, and I was buying books on Barnes & Noble and decided to get it because it was like $13 for this hardback, and this was so good. Our main character, she was burned in the past by a guy, so she's determined never to fall in love again, and she wants to be queen, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go and seduce the king and he'll marry me and then I'll kill him and I'll like own everything. It's their relationship. It's very fun and funny. It's like a Slytherin romance is how people talk about this, but I feel like after 50% the romance really became good, and we learned a secret about the king and about his power since it is fantasy, and I really liked that, and it was so good. And I liked how there was a forbidden aspect to this, which I can't tell you because it would spoil things, but it's a standalone fantasy romance. It's like 300 and something pages. It's not that long at all. I flew through it and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The romance was just so good because there was that forbidden aspect to it, and you're like, you shouldn't do it. And then she kind of started liking him, but like she was supposed to kill him, but then other people were trying to kill him, so then she's trying to protect him so like he could stay alive until they got married, and it was really good. I liked it. Next, I started reading the books for reading your favorite romances. So I asked on my Instagram and my Twitter what everyone's favorite romances were and picked 5 to read. So the first one was Transcendence by Shay Savage. I can never say her name correctly. Oh my gosh. But this is a caveman romance, time traveling. So we have a caveman and this girl just pops out of nowhere wearing jeans and like everyday clothes, and this man finds her and they end up falling in love, and she has to survive with him. They can't communicate at all, like he can't speak, and so it's all from his point of view, so we never know what she's saying or what she's thinking, which I wish it gave us both of their perspectives. I do know that there's a like 1.5 to this book where it's a novella from her perspective, but I heard it's not as good, and it was just a very sweet romance and I liked it. It reminded me a lot of Ice Planet Barbarians where they couldn't communicate with each other. In Ice Planet Barbarians they eventually could, but in this one they never did, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did like the ending. I thought the ending was really cool, how it wrapped things up and kind of came full circle, but it was fun. I wish we just had a perspective though, so 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up a new to me author, and that is A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught. This one was so good. Our main character is the daughter of this like guy who is an enemy of this other guy, and so she's living in a convent. She's like 17 and considered a spinster, but anyways, she's like the not pretty sister, and then her sister's like the super pretty gorgeous sister, and so they both are kidnapped by her father's rivals. She immediately butts heads with the guy who kidnaps her and tries to escape multiple times, tries to kill him multiple times, and you know in the first chapter that they're gonna get married because it tells you that. And so it's marriage of convenience. She's kind of forced into marriage with him as like a peace treaty kind of thing, and it's so good. I do think it went on a little too long. Like there was this whole like what is it, jousting carnival kind of competition thing at the end, which I could have done without, and I feel like some things weren't wrapped up enough, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars though, and I cannot wait to read more by this author. Then I listened to the audio of Jacques Roe by Sarah Nye, and this is about, I really liked it. This is about a girl who is, it's new adult romance. She goes to parties with her friends, but she doesn't like parties, so she goes in like a giant sweater, jeans, and like her giant tote bag, and she immediately kind of calls the guys out for being not stupid, but like they would lie about things to her friends and like use cheesy pickup lines, and she's like, you're being annoying. And well, that could be seen as annoying. It was fine. I brushed that off, and she ends up being kicked out of the party because she's like standing in the way of these guys getting to her friends. And this guy who is on the baseball team ends up kind of being in charge of keeping her out, and they start talking. And so then she comes back every Friday night and they just spend the night on the porch talking, and it's their romance. I thought it was really cute. I do think it came, like, endings of books always get too much. Like, if it ends with them like getting married and being super happy together, I'm like, why are they getting married when it's been a year? So like, and they're in college. Like, I just don't like new adults ending in marriage, because I'm just like, they're literally babies still. Like, I get that happens in real life, but not all my new adults have to end that way. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was still really cute. I mean, like, it's not really a spoiler telling you that because it ends in a happily ever after anyway. I just want to say that's what does bother me about some books. So 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I did start book 2 and could not deal with it, so I DNF'd that one. Then I picked up Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. This one is a dark romance with a girl and her piano teacher. She goes to a performing arts school, and so it's her teacher at that school. He is new there because of a scandal that happened at his old school, and she is very poor, and she comes from a very bad home life. Very bad things happen to her from page 1, and she is trying her best to get to this prestigious performing arts college so that she can be a pianist, and it's her romance with her teacher. He is into very dark things. I did enjoy this. I wasn't expecting it to be that kind of romance. It's more like on the BDSM side, which I wasn't expecting, but after that was introduced, it wasn't too much of the plot line, but I really did enjoy this. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. She really just needed someone to just like put her first and care for her, because she's never had that since her dad died when she was little. So I did enjoy this. 4 out of 5 stars. Be wary though, it is a very dark romance. Next are books I read for the reading rush. So the first one I read was Angel Fall by Susan E. This is a book I picked up because everybody told me the romance is amazing. And there was barely a romance in here until the end, but I still really enjoyed it. It's post-apocalyptic where like angels have taken over, and the beginning of the book starts out with her trying to survive with her mother and her sister. She saw these angels get into this fight, and they took off the wings of this angel, and so she helps him, and they try to figure out how to get his wings reattached. And they're enemies though, because angels are literally coming in and killing everybody, and it was really good. I don't know if you necessarily want to read post-apocalyptic books like with the way the world's going on right now, but I enjoyed it. I did wish there was more romance because I was told this was a lot of more romance, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. This one is about a guy who owns a bookstore, and he years ago put out a list of 8 perfect murders from 8 novels. He's like, these are the perfect murders if you want to get away with murder, and someone has been performing these murders. So an FBI agent approaches him and says, hey, can you help me figure out the deal and if these are actually connected to your list or not? Oh boy, this one was not a thriller. It was so slow, so boring, and it was literally them talking to each other the whole time. And then when we got to like the whodunit, it went on for like 10 pages explaining how they did it and why, and I'm just like, really? So I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Very, very underwhelming, very boring. I just need more action in my thrillers, and this was literally them sitting around talking the whole time. So I did not enjoy this. Then I read my favorite book of the whole month, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This one was perfection. It was adorable. I love TJ Klune. This is about a man who, I think he's in his late 30s, and his job is to, he's basically a social worker. And so in this world, it's fantasy, there are these children who are orphans who have powers, and they are put into these orphanages, and his job is to visit the orphanages and see if they are being run well or not, and whether they should stay open or be closed. And so he is deemed with the task to go to this orphanage in the Cerulean Sea, and it is holding the most dangerous children, and it's very top secret. And so he goes, he's in a very funk part of his life. He just goes through the motions, and he doesn't really like his job, but he goes and has to spend 2 weeks there with these kids, and he's instantly like terrified because there's Lucifer is one of the children, there's a gnome, there's a pixie, I think, fairy kind of thing, there's something that turns into a dog when he gets freaked out, there's like a blob thing, and then the guy who runs the orphanage is just this 40-year-old man who's as sweet as can be, who really cares for the kids. And of course our guy social worker falls for the owner of the orphanage, and it's very adorable. This book is just so adorable and wholesome and cute and tells you so many good messages about accepting people for who they are, and I loved every second of it. This was my favorite book of the month. I even want my students to read this because while it is adult and it follows an adult character, the messages in here are just like perfection, and it was so good. And that reveal at the end, I'm like, are we getting a book too? Because I want another book with these characters. Next, I listened to Captain by Lauren Rowe. I think this is either 2 or 3 in the series. So our main couple meets under false pretenses. Our main character, she was cheated on, and so she hasn't really gotten like back on the horse. So she doesn't want to date anymore. And her friend's a flight attendant, is like, hey, I'm gonna dress you up in one of my flight attendant outfits. We're gonna go to a bar and pick up some guys. And so she kind of has like a fake persona and a fake name and meets this guy, and they really hit it off. And then this girl comes in, the guy's psycho ex that he broke up with that day, comes in. So our main character is immediately like, oh my god, how'd I fall for a cheater again? Freaks out and leaves. And the guy is like devastated because like this was literally his dream girl and they had such a connection. So he spends the next like 3 months trying to find her, and it just so happens that she is the assistant to the guy who ends up like getting married into his family or something. And so they end up meeting at a wedding, and it's their romance, and it's so fun. I think this was my favorite possibly of the series. I loved it so much. I just love this series. I give it, again, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just can't give these like a full 5 stars, I think because of the endings, but I really enjoyed it. Next, I finally listened to the audio of Fire in His Blood by Ruby Dixon. This is again post-apocalyptic, but it's because dragons have come and taken over the world, and our main character is a scavenger, and in the beginning she's caught because scavenging is illegal, and so they end up deciding to use her as bait for the dragons because they've heard that females can like tame the dragons, and she ends up falling in love with the dragon that like finds her because they are taken over by this like thing. So like the humans, like the girl they fall in love with kind of like tames them and like makes them human again, so they're not like taken over by this craziness. And it's fun, and I didn't love it as much as Icewind Barbarians, so I gave this more of a 3.5 star. It was kind of slow and not a lot happened, and I've heard a lot of them are like the same story in the series. I'm listening to book 2 now, and it's fine. It's just like they're terrified when they're caught by the dragon, and then they have to figure out how to communicate, and then they like fall in love. So it's fun though. Dragons, if you like those, shape-shifting dragons, so they shift into human form when they fall in love with a girl. Next, I read Lord of Scoundrels. So our main character, Jessica, her brother is like in a little bit of trouble, and so she ends up crossing paths with Sebastian, and it's their romance, and she is very much like a headstrong female, and she doesn't want to take his crap or anything. The beginning of this was like really slow. I didn't like the first like 100 pages, but then once we like figured out them like kind of falling for each other, and then I feel like I've read a lot of romances where they think that like one of them's trying to ruin them to like trap them into marriage. I've read like 3 in a row, and that happened in here. And so obviously like he thinks that she trapped him, she thinks that he was set out to embarrass her, and so then they like don't get along, but there's a marriage of convenience, and I really enjoyed it. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, more a low 4 out of 5 stars. I just did not like the beginning, and the writing style was really hard for me to get into. If like I even for a second like drifted in my mind, I like didn't know what was happening. So it was fun. Not my favorite historical, like a lot of people say, but I did enjoy it. Then I picked up Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. This one, whew, it's been out for like 10 years, and it is about a guy who his job is to read through the emails of this office, and it takes place in 1999. It was released in like 2011 or something, so it's not historical. I don't even know what you would call that, but he ends up falling in love with this girl over reading her emails to her friend, and I feel like it was kind of dated. The beginning kind of made me uncomfortable because like the girl, it starts off with her friend thinking she's pregnant, and then she's like, oh, but I drank this weekend, and like joking about like the child having special needs because of her drinking, and I like don't think that's funny. And the main character's sister uses the R word when describing him. He's like, shouldn't you not say that? And she's like, oh, but it describes you perfectly. And so I didn't like that, and it was just very boring. I more gave it like 2.5 stars. I might even lower my rating to 2 stars. I just like didn't care, and they didn't even meet until the end, which I thought was annoying, and it was super insta-lovey. I'm like, you literally have not talked. Beth, our main character, has a boyfriend that's like dragging his feet, and like they've been together for like 8 years and he's not proposing, and she's like kind of not happy. And then she like fantasizes about this guy in her office and how cute he is, and she like follows him and talks to her friend about how cute he is, and I'm just like, you're in a committed relationship and you're like dreaming about dating a different guy. Like, why are you in this relationship? So a lot I didn't enjoy about this book. glad I finally read it and glad I can get rid of it. Then I listened to the audio of Never Love an Outlaw by Nicole Snow. This one is a motorcycle romance. Our main character in the beginning is kidnapped and used at like a trucker brothel. And she is from a rich family. She was really stupid in how she got like abducted. She like willingly went with this guy that she didn't know and was surprised that he kidnapped her. She should have been a little more careful, but she ends up getting rescued by this biker and it's their romance, and I gave it 2 stars. In the beginning I liked because she was trying to get out of the situation and he was trying to rescue her, but it got super insta-lovey and she was making weird decisions that like don't even make sense, and I just didn't like it, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Then the readathon that Riley and Lainey hosted was that weekend, so I did pick up The Loner's Lady by Jessica Cain. This one I did enjoy more than the first Jessica Cain book I read, which was Sacrifice to the Beast. That one was bad. This one, our main character has to pretend to date her best friend because he's gay and he's going home and doesn't want his dad to know that he's gay, so he's like, this is my girlfriend. She has immediate attraction to his dad and it's their romance, and it was super insta-lovey and better than the other one I read, but I gave it 3 stars. It was entertaining, but it was super insta-lovey. But I guess that's what you get with Jessica Cain. Then for the Ravished by Romance book club, I picked up King of the South by Callie Reed. This is giant. It's 480 pages and it's a historical romance, and it's a spin-off of The Surviving Trace, which is a time-traveling historical romance. This one is the brother of the main character from that series, and it was fine. It's an age gap romance. He grew up with this girl and they butt heads a lot, and so she needs to find a husband because her brother passed away in World War I, and he left a stipulation in the will that they would get money if she found a husband within 60 days. 30 days, 60 days, I don't remember. And the executor of the will is his best friend, who is the love interest in this book, and so he has to help her find a husband. And so our character, who has time traveled from the future, is like, hey, let's do The Bachelor. So they do. They invite a bunch of guys and basically do The Bachelor with her, and she falls in love with the brother's best friend. And it was fine. It was just like really long, and I didn't get, like, her family had a lot of debt, so I didn't get why her brother like let them get into debt and then would make that stipulation and not have just paid off their debt with that money. It didn't make sense, but it was very long. I think Lacey gave it 3 stars. I just love Callie Reed's writing, and I love the historical setting, and I love the romance. There were just a lot of scenes that could have been taken out. Then I picked up Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert. This is another girl with her someone's father. It was her ex-fiance's father. Her fiance cheated on her. So to get revenge, she goes and arrives at his father's house and is like, hey, I'm here. Take me, basically. And it's like a weekend, and it is a lot of steam in this book, and that's it. So if you want the physical side of a relationship and not any of the emotional connection or build up, you can read this book. It was better than Jessica Cain's. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I love Katie Roberts' writing, and I did enjoy the book. It was just short fun and nothing really more than that. Then I read Guardian Temptation by Talia Hibbert. This is kind of like Your Dad Will Do, where I love this author and I love her writing, and she did build the characters up, but because it was a novella, I think that it needed more build up. And this one is our main character who she writes this column in the paper or like on a website or something, and people are trying to kill her. They have death threats against her because of what she believes about politics, and so her brother's best friend ends up letting her stay with him and like guarding her. It's not a bodyguard romance, which I thought it was. It's more like he's there to protect her, and she ends up like staying in his bedroom and he's on the couch, and it's their romance. They had a like one night stand before, and he said, oh, this was a mistake, and so she's like really mad at him. And we didn't get that though in this book. That was like oh, this had happened before. So if we had a longer book, I would have loved it more, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was still fun. Then I listened to Challenge by Amy Dawes. This is about a soccer player who gets hurt, so he has to go to the hospital and get surgery, and he falls in love with his doctor. She's like not fully a doctor yet. It's what you're called like before you're a doctor. I'm like blanking on what that's called, but she is gonna help with the surgery, and he is instantly attracted to her. They end up having a romance, but of course it's like she doesn't want anything serious, and he's just recovering from his injury and doesn't know if he wants to be a soccer player still or not. It was fine. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. It was fun in the beginning, but it's just like something to use to pass the time. I wasn't like in love with it, so 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book of this wrap up is Blowback by Monica James. I got an e-arc of this. This is book 2 to the duet of I think it's like, I don't remember what it's called, but the first one was Bullseye, so it's Bull, and he was released from prison in book 1 and was set out for revenge, falls for a stripper at the strip club that he got a job being a security guard at, and that's what I can tell you. I can't tell you too much about book 2. Things pick up where book 1 leaves off after that cliffhanger. The beginning was pretty slow. I wish it was a little faster, and there were a lot of characters that I was having a hard time keeping straight, but I gave it 4 to 5 stars. There was a lot of action and a lot of chemistry between our 2 main characters, and I ended up really enjoying it and the duet as a whole. And that is my wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm just like feeling hot right now because I never sit down and like I've got this blankets and this pillow behind me. But let me know what you read and if you read any of these and you enjoyed them, and if you like this setup. I just feel very casual and chatty with you. So that's all I have. As always, thanks so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.